What's up, everyone? I'm going to tell you a little story about how I got stranded on a desert island this past summer. I'm a island boy! This past summer was the first time I ever went to Greece, and since I have Greek origins, this was even more exciting for me. I've been wanting to go for years. I planned my IRL streams around this trip, so after working, I could get like 3 days off to myself, offline. But content creation is ever-changing, and you have to adapt to issues that arise when you're traveling. My mobile signal wasn't great, there was a lot of wind, and I ended up stranded on this desert island. I know a lot of you, especially Greeks, are probably wondering why I chose Mykonos as a destination.
I know a lot of people feel it's not authentically Greek and tons of rich tourists invade the island every summer.
But I had a lot of credit card points saved up, and I decided to spend them on this IRL streaming trip instead of saving them for myself for a camera-free vacation.
No, stop hating on the destination. Thank you.
August 31st finally rolled around. I was super excited to be in Greece. I was able to stream for a total of 4 days in Mykonos. Since I spent a lot of time troubleshooting for signal issues and weather, I took a lot less photos than I would have liked to. But I did get to have some great lukmades, and we built the infamous Castle Grayskull on stream. I ended my last stream in Mykonos at the port, where I then took a ferry to Milos on September 5th. This is where everything started to go downhill. The ferry was a couple hours late because of the Meltemi winds. Right now the ferry is 15 minutes late, and the entire ferry ride was rough. I've never experienced rough waters like this on a ferry, but it was high speed and it was slamming into water every few seconds. Luckily, I don't get seasick easily, so I felt a little nauseous, but there were people on every side of me vomiting in the small paper bags. It looked like a quarantine zone out of a horror movie, with the red glow of the setting sun beaming from the windows that were drenched by the waves crashing into them. It felt like hell.
Hell.
So I woke up early so I could go to Sarakiniko Beach, which is one of Milos's most famous destinations. It's not a sandy beach, but a formation of volcanic rock that really looks like you're on the moon. I realized that even if I wasn't going to get the relaxing trip I was looking forward to, I was determined to at least document this beautiful place and get as much footage as possible so it wouldn't be a total waste and I wouldn't leave disappointed. The wind at Sarakiniko was so violent, it was kicking up sediment and pebbles. So I actually had to cover up my face and my head with the scarf that just kept blowing off like the inflatable tube guy. There was a lady screaming at the group she was with, "Oh my God, get me the hell out of here." Everybody was miserable. My dream of relaxing for 3 days was just turning into a fight against Mother Nature. Don't forget, if you like the content, to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. After Sarakiniko, I went to lunch, and keep in mind that every drive in Milos is about 20 to 40 minutes apart depending on your destination, and I was on a scooter, so each drive was equally as brutal because I had the wind constantly beating me. I know it might sound like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. I have a really high pain tolerance, and this was actually painful. After lunch, I went to Agios Sostis Beach, but the wind was still super strong, so I couldn't chill out. There was more or less a small sandstorm happening. From there, I went to explore the hilltop town of Plaka to watch the sunset. And when I was in Plaka, I got an email saying that my ferry the next day to Santorini was canceled due to the winds. By this point, my body was physically exhausted, and I was just ready to go back to the apartment and shower before having dinner. So I rushed back to the apartment on the scooter, and I spent a couple hours searching for alternatives, but there were 0 ferries available to get off that island. There were no flights available for 10 days. Finally, I found a cargo ship that carries passengers that was leaving the next night around midnight, so I booked it right away so I wouldn't lose that chance. I decided to make the most of my last day, an extra daytime gain in Milos. I went to Sarakiniko Beach, thinking it would be a great secret spot because it's not easy to access. You have to climb down this scary ladder, and when I got there, so many people were laid out, I had to stand. Whatever happened to the tide that day also made the water smell like sewage, so I didn't swim. There wasn't much daylight left, so I left and spent the last couple hours at nearby Fluffylives Beach and watched the sunset. After all this stress, it was actually the first beach that was swimmable, and the winds finally seemed to calm down just enough that I was actually able to enjoy myself and decompress. Since my cargo ship was scheduled to leave around midnight that night, I decided to skip dinner and get about an hour and a half of sleep before heading down to the port. All right, so I packed my stuff, skipped dinner, and I actually managed to sleep about an hour and a half. It's 12:20 right now in the morning. It's a miracle that I was able to sleep, but thanks to the wind slapping me around all day, I actually slept a little bit. So now I have to take a taxi down to the port and hopefully catch this slow ferry. Oh yes, how could I forget? Here's the wind that prevented me from leaving. Actually, it was much worse than this. Even though traveling on a midnight cargo ship doesn't sound ideal, I justified it by saying to myself that at least I'd get to see a famous Santorini sunrise since I'd get in around 5 a.m. Well, you probably guessed it by this point. The cargo ship was late.
The cargo ship was late.
By the time the cargo ship arrived, people were restless. They had us lined up before boarding in an unlit, dark hallway. I was exhausted. My face was chapped from the wind. My scalp was wrecked from the sediment that cut into it over the course of the few days that I was stranded on this desert island. I don't think a lot of people could have tolerated this. And again, I know it might sound like some of these things are an exaggeration, but these few days were just truly exhausting. And I think all of my experience touring as a DJ gave me the strength that I needed to push through and find solutions to get out of there. Despite all the bad luck I had on this trip, I was drawn to Milos in an indescribable way, and I can't wait to go back. I know it sounds crazy, but it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. The food was amazing, and the locals were super friendly. I got to Santorini a little after 7 a.m., missing that famous sunrise, and flew into bed right away to get a few hours of sleep. The next morning, I left around 6 a.m. to go to the airport and said goodbye to the motherland. So that's the story of how I was stranded on a desert island this past summer. If you like this video and you want to see more content like this or other types of content, just comment below. I will look at your comments. I want to know what else you guys want to see on my YouTube channel. Usually I do a lot of edits from my live streams and upload them. But if you want to see more original content for YouTube, definitely let me know. So each drive, you're going to do that because I'm just laughing thinking about how painful it was. I fucking have this hair on my lip.
Goodbye.